Hello and welcome. It's a pleasure for me to see you here in this new video. And what are we talking about today? Today we are talking about what is operational risk. And if you're interested in this, then stay tuned. By the way, my name is Sven Ruppert. I'm developer advocate for JFrog, and if you like the themes, this auto theme together with cybersecurity topics, then you're right on my channel. And if you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe my channel if you're not already done it. Okay, so I think it's time to start. What is operational risk in combination with security? So if you're adding open source dependencies to your project, so you're selecting them because you need this functionality, and if this functionality is good, everything is fine. And then you want to make sure that it's not containing some malicious code pieces or that it's free of vulnerabilities. You can check it, that's good. But what is in the future? How this project will be a risk in the future for you, and for this you need some kind of metric to measure how fit, how robust this open source component is, so that you can calculate or decide if this risk, this operational risk for the future, is something that you want to take or not, because operational risk is part of the security. Just have in mind how often you will get an update and how fast, for example, a vulnerability will be removed. So operational risk is more or less the KPI or the description of how fit, how robust, how protected is my open source component and prepared for the future. How does the feature help me to identify risk or to minimize the risk in my project? Just as an example, if you're talking about vulnerabilities and you see that this open source project is very slow in commits or new releases, then all the time the risk that there is a vulnerability and it is inside your system and can't be removed over a longer time is higher than in a project with a very high frequency of new versions. So this feature, operational risk, inside the JFrog platform will help you to address and to identify this risk so that you can make this decision if this is necessary or if this is important or how important this will be for you. So now I want to go through a few of these metrics inside this feature operational risk that you are able to find in Artifactory and X-Rays or inside the JFrog platform. And one is, for example, the end of life. End of life of a component means that there is no further development in this version or in this whole project. And if you identify there is an end of life, then you should be warned. So this end of life can be now because you are adding this dependency, but maybe you added this dependency and the project was good, but a year later there is an end of life. You should be warned immediately so that you can start working against this risk. So end of life is one of the very important key metrics to describe the risk for the further project lifetime. Another KPI that's very important for you is the age of this version. So you have to decide if you have a project, let's say Jakarta Commons Lang, and quite often in projects I see that they're using a very old version of this component. It's doing exactly what they need, and yeah, they have right now no bigger issues with this in terms of vulnerabilities, but is it really a good decision to stay on this old version, just having in mind if this API is 2, 3 or 4 years old and there is a big vulnerability and it's not in maintenance anymore because it's such an old version, then you're in trouble upgrading to the latest, greatest version, because mostly there is an API change as well. So the age of the version is one of the things you should consider or should have an eye on to think about. Is there the right time to make an upgrade on the next major version, yes or no? Another KPI is a number of new versions. And there is a big difference if you have just 1 or 2 new versions or if you have 10 or 20 new versions. And then this over the amount of time, it's a very interesting or it's a very important thing to measure, because you have to check if you have the speed in your own project to follow this cadence of versions. If you want to follow this cadence of versions, yes or no, because with a bunch of new versions, what you have, if you have a high frequency of new versions, it's good because mostly bugs are fixed quite fast, or vulnerabilities are killed quite fast. On the other side, mostly the evolution of the API is faster, and you have to follow this change. And this is definitely a risk you should consider or should start thinking about. If this API change and the speed of evolution of this project fits this to my project, and if it is too slow, if it is too fast, how to deal with the amount of versions you are running behind. So another KPI in this operational risk feature is the health of this open source project. The good thing with open source projects is you can measure it in several ways, how active or how robust and how healthy this project is. It could be the amount of commits per day, week, month, year. It can be the amount of interactions or mailing lists, the amount of maintainers, code changes, maintenance of LTS versions, how long an old version will be supported with security fixes, and so on and so on. And if there is a robust, healthy open source project with a bunch of committers that are working equally on this project, this is mostly a better decision than you have one excellent project that is maintained by one person in his spare time. And so you have to consider, or you have to think about this risk and where is a barrier for you. But the health of the open source project is one of the key metrics in this operational risk feature. This was the overview of the feature operational risk in Artifactory and X-Ray, and this is just a few of this KPI. So it depends a little bit how old this video is if you are watching this one, but I can recommend to read the documentation about this feature because we're extending these metrics, and it will be more and more detailed over the time. So it's the evolution of this feature is you will find it in the documentation, and I hope you like this feature and see the importance for your own projects. And if you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe my channel, please. It would be a pleasure for me to see you there as my new subscriber. Otherwise, what you are doing for the rest of the day, have fun, enjoy, and stay safe. See you.